Well, here we are. Here is the reading for the 13th of November, 2025. It's much simpler than yesterday's or the day before. Is it something that's going to be easy to do? No. Is it simple? Yes. And simple and easy don't always go together, right? And operating a mouse, apparently, albeit theoretically simple, doesn't always work. So here we go. It's called Just Observe. The first quote is from Brian L. Weiss, or Weiss, if you prefer. We must learn to receive love as well as to give. Only in community, only in relationships, only in service can we truly understand the all-encompassing energy of love. You know, human beings were really not intended to be living in isolation. The odd people who did it, hermits and so on, went off to the hills or wherever, the caves, wherever they went, because I guess they wanted to be alone with their thoughts. And that's part of what's here today, being alone with your thoughts, but not running off to the hills. So our modern society, especially in what is called the West, quote unquote, which of course is a major misnomer, because everywhere is east of somewhere and west of somewhere. We tend to live in isolation. And I'll give you an example. One of our neighbors, kind of across the street, diagonally from us, her husband passed away several years ago, probably about 10 years ago now. It's quite a while. And she is somewhere around about 90, maybe in her early 90s, I'm not sure. She still gets out there and she puts out the garbage container, which is pretty heavy, and she puts out the recycle container, which is equally big. Our neighbor across, who lives next to her, visits her on really regular occasions, especially first thing in the morning, where she goes and has coffee with her. But basically, she lives alone. And yeah, her son comes occasionally, I guess, some other relatives sometimes. But she's basically living alone. And it's not how human beings were intended to live. I remember as a kid, you know, when my grandfather lived with us and when my father died, long story, but we went to live with my mother's parents near downtown, and they lived with us until they passed away. So that was kind of the norm, you know, the older people lived with their relatives until they moved on. But nowadays we kind of live in isolation. So I think, you know, the village society structure, not necessarily we have to live in little tiny villages, but the village society structure lent itself to more of what Brian was talking about there in his first quote, which is we must learn to receive love as well as to give it. You can only do that if you live in community, if you think about it. Well, you can kind of do it in your mind, but really it's much easier in community. And he says, only in community, only in relationships, only in service can we truly understand the all-encompassing energy of love. I don't know if it's only, but it's major parts of it. So that's my take on that. Ernest Holmes said, there is no scarcity of good. He says, my blessings are abundant, and by sharing them, I add to myself. And that, I think, is a pretty good affirmation. Actually, I think it's a better affirmation than one we got, but that's another story. There's no scarcity of good. My blessings are abundant, and by sharing them, I add to myself. And now we get back to Rev David Alexender, who says, these two simple words, just observe, are what I remember most from my Vipassana meditation retreat in India, made famous by teacher S.N. Gunka. To just observe isn't passive. It's actually a discipline of disentangling one's identity from thought. In Vipassana, you sit with yourself, stripped of distraction, devices, and even speech. The daily structure is rigorous, and he says it clashed with every creature comfort I'd ever known. But by day 10, I just didn't want it to end. I craved the clarity it gave me. I grew to understand that I wasn't there to fix or resist thoughts. I was there to witness them. This immersion taught me something priceless. I am not my thoughts. Thought is not the enemy, nor is it the truth. Thought's a phenomenon like the wind passing through the leaves. When I just observe without judgment or interference, I notice a subtle inner freedom that is vast, unshakable, and strangely familiar. He says vipassana means clear seeing, and it offers an insight into what is, beyond story, beyond identity. I carry the anchor of that phrase. In times of stress, seduction, or fear, I return to it like a mantra. Just observe. With that as a daily gatekeeper, we may move, respond, advocate, and engage much more willingly to meet the world's dualistic outpicturings. We do so not with passive detachment, but from a grounded awareness in the infallibility of the principle that God is all there is, even when that truth seems absent. With this practice, we remember, I am the ocean of awareness, not the waves. I'm the space in which it all appears. So that's an encouragement to me, that's an encouragement to meditate, which I do make an attempt to do every day. Am I all that good at it? No, I really don't think I am. But then again, I'm not judging myself for whether I've succeeded or failed or whatever you want to call it in meditation. I do it. And some days I am much more at oneness than others. Usually less than more, but I do it. But I can say this, that just the very act of taking some quiet time every day is really important. And then the flip side, of course, is where he's quoting from Brian Weiss. I'm not sure. It's pronounced differently in Europe. I'm trying to get those two things to work together. So one is being in community and sharing that love and support and everything else. And the other is actually sitting down and meditating and being in isolation for a while and just observing the thoughts. Kind of like you're in a boat and you're on a river and things come floating by in the river. And those are the thoughts, and you kind of look at them, watch them, and they just fly by you. And if you find that you get yourself attached to one, well, when you realize it, you just come back, you're back in your boat again, and you start letting the stuff float by again. So it's kind of, to me, it's a balance of these two things. Yes, it's taking quiet time, and it's also living in community. So if you know somebody who is a shut-in, who has very few visitors, who could do with some companionship, then contact them. Whether it's physically in person, it's on like FaceTime, Zoom, WhatsApp or whatever it is, make some contact with them and help them to feel better. And when you help them feel better, guess what? You will feel better. I'll tell you David Alexender's affirmation. It's a long one. I rest in the stillness beneath all thought, knowing that I am not what passes through me, but the spacious awareness that lovingly observes it all. If that works for you, use it. If Ernest Holmes works for you, there's no scarcity of good. My blessings are abundant, and by sharing them, I add to myself. You pick. And today, let me say, oh yes, tomorrow, Reverend Lisa, my colleague, will be on Creative Eye Spiritual Center's Facebook page around 9:15. I'll be back hopefully 5 p.m. tomorrow evening. And my closing prayer is this: the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Everywhere we are, God is, and all is well. So until next time, namaste.